Thank you so much. As you can see, NJCU has remarkable graduates, and you've just heard one. I'd like to ask Maria Gomez, our SGO president, to come forward to introduce the Presidential Medallion candidate.
Thank you. Today, President Henderson will begin a new tradition as she presents a presidential medallion to an individual who has made extraordinary contributions to public service in our region and beyond. It is my privilege to introduce this year's recipients, Mr. Carlos Lejnieks, CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Essex, Hudson, and Union Counties, and Chairman of Big Brothers Big Sisters of New Jersey. His vision and leadership expanded the one-to-one youth mentoring agency from 100 to well over 1,000 youth within 3 years, making it grow from the smallest to the largest agency in New Jersey. A consistent community-engaged citizen, Mr. Lejnieks served on President Barack Obama's Regional Finance Committee, Governor Chris Christie's Educational Transition Team, and former Newark Mayor Cory Booker's transition team. An Aspen Fellow, Mr. Lejnieks was one of the only 12 people from throughout the world to be selected in Aspen's Emerging Leaders 2012 cohort. In 2014, he received the Excellence Award from Aspida of New Jersey for his leadership in the Latino community in the state. In 2013, he received the Education Leadership Award from the National Organization of African American Administrators and the National 40 Under 40 Award from the New Leaders Council. In 2011, he was New Jersey's representative for the American Express Leadership Academy in partnership with the Corporation for National and Community Service. Mr. Lejnieks holds an MSc degree from the London School of Economics and a BA degree in the International Relations and Commerce from Brown University. Mr. Lejnieks, on behalf of New Jersey City University, we proudly award you the first Presidential Medallion on this 15th day of May 2014.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Good morning, NJCU. What an exciting day it is today. The feeling of inspiration and aspiration is in the air. It's contagious. Actually, I was talking to Mr. Visconti earlier. I was walking around the stadium seeing the great joy and energy in this hall, in this arena, because you've made it, class of 2014. And for the people who speak Spanish, para la gente que habla español, felicitaciones! You see, it's a sincere honor for me to be here with you today, receiving this prestigious honor from such a fine institution, an institution driven by the motto, enter to learn, exit to serve. Enter to learn, exit to serve. See, graduates, you're not only intellectually solid, but you're socially conscious. And so when I first met with President Henderson a little over a year ago, I got a clear, sincere sense of her commitment to social justice and her clear vision for how NJCU can lead the way in our community. So I wanted to say thank you to the NJCU community for all the work that it does in Jersey City, Hudson County, and beyond, and for its partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters. Thank you, Sue Henderson and NJCU. And today's a celebration about you, graduates, for the long journey that you've taken on. It's been many challenges and battles. I know you've struggled to balance between work and academics and home life, but you've made it here. But you're not only here by yourself, for you are a product of so many people who invested in you to make this day possible. parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, teachers, professors, and mentors who saw something in you at times when you may not have seen it in your own self. For that grandmother who took out that extra loan to help pay for your tuition. For your parents who took on the second and third job to help put food on the table when you were growing up. And for that mentor, when you called up and you were thinking about quitting, they said, keep on, you need to keep on going. Graduation is just around the corner. They are here today. Today is a day of celebration for them and their love and investment and support of you. So I ask the class of 2014 to simply please say thank you and a round of applause for the people in your lives. But today is part of a greater context, right? Today is part of a day full of people that you will never know and who will never know you. A countless number of nameless and faceless people that made today possible. People who fought for our independence, who stood up for our ideals of this country, who fought for our democracy. The servicemen, servicewomen, some of whom gave the ultimate sacrifice and gave their lives to fight for our freedoms in foreign countries and in foreign wars. Today is made possible for those heroes and sheroes who fought for civil rights and social justice to give us many of the things that we take for granted today, access to classrooms, access to opportunities. And it's now manifesting itself through you in this day, young graduates. And to he who much is given, much is required. And you've been blessed. So when President Henderson asked me to say a few words, I was very humbled and honored, but honestly, I feel a bit ill-equipped to offer any sort of grand advice about life. See, I'm an unlikely story to be here today wearing this robe in such amazing company. And I'm only 36 years old. I haven't figured it out yet. But what I will do is offer you a part of my story, part of the story that made today possible, that got me to this point. You know, Mark Twain said it well when he said, the two important days in a person's life are the day you're born and the day you know why. And for me, my why moment became clear, started to crystallize itself when I was in the private sector and I started mentoring one child once a week in Newark, New Jersey, turned into 2 children 4 days a week. And that touched my heart and expanded my sense of possibility of what I wanted to choose as a life's calling in my life. And indeed, life is a journey, right? We face many crossroads, and at those crossroads, sometimes we ask ourselves the big questions. What is it all for? Who am I? Why am I here? Why am I blessed with this gift of life? And so as I was framing my remarks for today, I took a step back and I thought about one of the most salient memories that I had from growing up, and it happened in a June day in 1989 when I was 11 years old. And I know I'm dating myself because many of you graduates probably weren't even born then. And it started off like any other day would start off. My mom woke me up and my brother as if we were going to school, but she said, today you're not going to school. So I said, like any 11-year-old would say, it's like my birthday, what a present, what a gift, right? And then she said, no, today is not a day of school lessons, but today rather is a day of life-learned lessons. So I gathered some toys because I knew it was going to be a long day to entertain ourselves. We went off to Newark, New Jersey to a governmental building. And I remember it was a hot day. And we entered this building, this room, and it was chaotic. It was well over 100 people. It was packed. People were going from line to line. So my mom started to handle her business. She went to one line, and my brother and I went to the back of the room. And then many hours later, she came back after lunch with a piece of paper in her hand and a look upon her face. She was silent, though. And she sat alongside us. And then a few moments later, she rose up. And then she looked to me, she shot my brother and I a look like only a Latina mother could do. And she struck the fear of God in us. Without saying a word, we knew immediately to rise up alongside her. And as we rose up, 100 people in the room rose up. And in the far off distance in the room, there was a gentleman at a podium, and he rose up as well, and he raised his right arm, and he crossed his heart. And 100 people did so in unison. and they started to pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You see, that day my mom was taking exams to become a U.S. citizen. And for the 100 people in that room, not yet 1 minute U.S. citizens, they were all pledging allegiance to this amazing country and pledging to fight for liberty and justice for all. You see, I must have said those words thousands upon thousands of times, like every single child does in our communities so they start the school day. But those words didn't mean as much as they did that moment when I saw the sacrifice that was evident in all those people's faces from all walks of life, from far-reaching parts of the world, who chose to be there, who chose this country. You see, I'm a social entrepreneur. I'm driven by a social bottom line, driven by the concept of justice for all. And this work is personal for me. That's why I think it's an unlikely story for me to be here. It's personal for me because it wasn't always a given. I was raised by a single-parent mother who was born in a small-room apartment in Ecuador, who cleaned houses, who scrubbed toilets to make ends meet. And sometimes the ends didn't meet, and so in middle school and in high school, I actually cleaned houses along with my mom, cleaned houses of some of the kids I actually went to school with. And in high school, times got particularly tough, and so I thought I had it all figured out. I said to myself, imagine how much more money I can make if I were to work full-time. And so I dropped out. I must have torn my mother up. She didn't sacrifice for me to quit. She didn't scrub toilets for me to drop out. But see, I tuned her out, as sometimes kids tend to do. She said all the right things, but I did block it out. The blessing is that I had mentors in my life, people who stepped up, and they basically had an intervention with me. They said, Carlos Lejnieks, what are you doing? You're not going to realize your full potential if you continue down this path. Carlos Lejnieks, get back to school. And they were right. I was wrong. I was humbled. They said the same thing that my mom said to me, but it came from a different voice and it resonated. You see, this country is based on some aspirational words: more perfect union, liberty, and justice for all. But we know that there's not justice for all when we see some of our crime rates and poverty rates and graduation rates and challenges that we face within this country. We know that there's not justice for all. I remember as a child growing up, I used to ask myself, why? Why me? Why, when I was hungry, did we sometimes have to go to a soup kitchen to eat? Why, when we didn't have food in our shelves, did we have to go to Christ Church, to the food pantry? Why, when I simply wanted to play basketball with my friends, did I have to scrub their toilets? Why? And now I realize that they're not necessarily liabilities at all, but those, in fact, were the needed blessings in my life to help drive and fuel the fire for my fight for liberty and justice for all. You see, this country is great, but it's not great inevitably. This country requires a constant level of investment, a constant fight, a constant struggle, like my mother struggled for me, like your parents struggle for you, like you struggle for your families. People that take a stand for the ideals that make this country so great. People that make real this American promise that otherwise would be just hollow words. This country needs you, class of 2014. We need you to mentor our children. You know, I've got 1,100 young people in my program. I wish that they were here today to celebrate you, to see you, for you are the articulation of the American dream concept that's sometimes so often removed from the reality of many of the children we serve. This country needs you, class of 2014. This country needs you to rise up when others are seated. This country needs your voice when others are silent. This country needs your heart when others are cold. This country needs you, class of 2014. We need you to make real this American dream. We need you to stand up for which we all stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much.